What's up, fellow go-givers? JuJuan Buford broadcasting here. And what I want to talk about today is a conversation I had recently with a business partner. And what we conversed about was, how do you identify the right people, right? Because you could have a great product or service. You could be planting seeds in fertile ground. You can be doing a lot of the right things, going out there, generating revenues, telling the story. But at some point, you realize you have to grow from a team of me to a team of we if you really want to scale your influence, right? You have to begin to surround yourself with people who get it, the mission, people who want to be accountable to it, and of course, people have the skills to pay the bills. But there are certain things that you have to look for, right? Assuming that you can come to terms in terms of values and principles, right? Let's just set that aside, right? But there are certain things you can't teach. And I said, these are the things you really need to prioritize if you want to have success long term and really build a thriving organization, right? And scale your impact. And so it's a couple things that I share with them. Number one thing that can't be taught is hunger, right? And I look for that for individuals. You have to find people who are hungry, people who have a compelling why. If I come across someone who's a wandering generality, where whether they succeed or not, whether or not they earn a certain amount of money or not, whether or not they achieve their goals or not, chances are that person just isn't going to have the staying power, the hunger, the willingness to learn the things they need to learn, to overcome the trials and tribulations they're going to need to overcome in order to be successful long term. Because entrepreneurial success is a marathon. It's not a sprint. And the bottom line is we come to it with our own different sets of deficits, and also our different sets of skill stacks and knowledge stacks and experiences, a well to pull from. And you got to be hungry. You got to be willing to do it. There's a certain stubbornness that at the end of the day is required to be successful. And I look for that. I look for hunger. I look for stubbornness. I look for a willingness to succeed regardless of what individuals may be saying around them, regardless of the circumstances and conditions that may be coloring their lives. I look for people who've drawn a line in the sand and said, I will until. That I will get this done until my life changes. And hell or high water, I'm not going to let anything dissuade me or distract me, because life is going to life, right? And so that's one of the first things I look for. The other thing that can't be taught is intelligence. And when I'm talking about intelligence, I'm not talking about the capacity to matriculate through a curriculum and get a PhD or MBA and all other fun stuff. That's important, but that's not really what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is the kind of native intelligence where a person is wired to solve problems, right? Where a person has a self-motivation to kind of figure things out, right? Where I don't have to stand over them or hover over them, helicopter over them, right? I can say, look, here's an assignment, here's the responsibility, here's the task, right? You know what the mission is. I go out there, here's the framework, right? Give you the framework, figure it out, right? I look for that in individuals. I firmly believe that when you have individuals who spend a majority of their time blaming others for their lack of success, it's a type of laziness, a type of laxity that, quite frankly, I find pernicious and nauseating. Those who achieve success realize at a certain point you can't blame other people. That make you feel good. But the only way you're going to solve your problems is take self-inventory and say, okay, what are the things that I don't know? What are the things that I have not figured out how to achieve? What are the skill stacks, talent stacks? What are the knowledge stacks that I'm lacking? And so I don't believe that's something that can necessarily be taught. You have to have it or develop it internally in order to be successful, right? The other thing that I look for that, once again, can't be taught, because once again, the skills can be taught. The know-how, the scripts, how to give a presentation, how to show up properly. Certain habits can kind of be instilled if you put people in the right culture. But if they don't have some of these basic things, right? Number one, hunger, a compelling reason why, right? And I'm reiterating this because it's so absolutely important, right? It has to be attached to something. What do you want, right? When I ask someone, what's most important to you? I want definitive answers. And then once again, I want someone who's hungry to learn, almost like an intellectual curiosity. You have to be very intelligent to be intellectually curious, right? So the next thing that I look for is passion. People who have a heartbeat to serve. People who have a mission orientation, right? They want to solve problems that are bigger than themselves, right? Because when you're solving problems that are bigger than yourself, when you're going after big issues, you're looking for big solutions, right? That will compel you, that will sometimes inspire you to become the leader, to become the entrepreneur, to become the grow giver, the person you need to be, right? It'll incite you, it'll force you, it'll motivate you to grow, to listen to the podcast, to read the books, to put yourself in environment success. A willingness to say, you know what, I'm a small fish in this environment and I'm good with it. But I'm not going to remain the weak link long. I'm going to level up. I'm going to grow. And people who have mission orientations, they usually have that thing inside of them that urges them, that pushes them, that motivates them to move in this way. And so once again, these are the things that ultimately you can't teach. And these are the things that I had to look for, right? You know, I share with them, give people assignments. I give people assignments all the time. I ask them to perform small tasks, or I'll purposely put them in certain environments or conditions, or I'll watch them move around certain people. And I may offer a tidbit of advice here and there, but I'll sit back and watch how they move. I give them assignments to see whether or not they do have hunger, right? When they do have challenges, do they check out, disappear? Do aliens abduct them? Or do they put their head down more stubborn than ever and say, I'm going to get through this? You know, I look for signs of intelligence and intellectual curiosity. I give people assignments to read a book or listen to a video. Or I'll tell someone, yeah, you should work on A, B, C, and D. And I may direct them, right? I'll provide the environment, the medium for them to learn the skills and things they need to learn. But I want to see if they're going to take the onus on themselves to do so, right? Or are they just going to sit around and complain about how they're not achieving their goals and looking at other people? You know, I look for signs of mission and passion, orientation. I'll ask them, where do you want to be a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now? Who do you want to impact? Who do you want to serve? Who do you want to help, right? Who are the individuals? Who's that buyer persona, so to speak, or that ideal client? Or who's that situation you want to help solve? Right? I ask people those questions all the time. What's most important to you? You know, 3 years from now, what does victory look like? Right? These are the type of questions and these are the types of things that I pose to individuals. Because this is what I'll tell you. Yeah, if you're from the right zip code, if you're from the right family, you have certain degrees and you've come up in a certain type of environment, those are huge advantages. But I'll take someone that has those other three elements over the individuals who have those advantages every and any day of the week, right? And then the last thing, and it can be a uncomfortable conversation, right? It can be a very uncomfortable conversation, but you have to have it. You have to understand that people who are mediocre, people who have Apple everything, people who, you know, quite frankly, just don't have the drive, don't like to be around people who are achievers, who are go-getters, people who are soldiers, people who are, once again, I will until. It makes them very uncomfortable. And you know what? People who are above average, people who are achievers, people who are pursuing upon excellence, they have a hard time tolerating and dealing. Even the most patient of us, even the most humble of us have a hard time long-term dealing with individuals who are just average, who don't want to achieve much, right? And look, that's most people, and that's okay. Man, and if you're thinking long-term, and if you're thinking at scale, you realize that, and I don't want people to misunderstand this, right? When I say dud, I don't mean intrinsically a person's a dud. But you need to understand that you do need to have enough patience to work with individuals who are quote-unquote duds, people who are mediocre and average, because they can be links to people who are achievers, to studs, right? So this is the conversation that I had with her. Hopefully this serves you as well. I celebrate success in advance. Goodbye for now.